Hi everyone and welcome to the first episode of Life of Artists. Today, as a guest, is Asel. She's a good friend of mine and she studied at Stella Adler Studio of Acting in New York City, where we studied both acting there. She's originally from Kyrgyzstan and she chose New York City as her dream city to pursue an acting career. So please welcome Asel.
Life of Artists podcast.
So I already introduced you, but would you like to add something else, like whatever I missed?
My name is Asel Otunchieva. I'm from Kyrgyzstan and I moved to the US when I was 15 and I've been here ever since. I live in New York and I pursue acting.
So can you share the journey, like what got you into the acting, like what inspired you to like continue like craft as being an actor?
Sure. Growing up, I always liked performing. It was always just a part of my day-to-day. So, I played tennis, I went to school, I did everything. And at school, we always had this plays and, in part of my religious community, we always had some events and the kids would make some plays about, equality or something or unity, and we would make up stories and present them. And it was always fun and it was always something I did. I never thought about it as like acting or performing, but it was just always a fun thing that I did. In school, I remember, I think I had this strong voice that I projected and I was comfortable on stage. So they always put me in all of the school plays and I was not a shy kid. I was very comfortable and for some reason I was like, of course I'll be cast in the, of course I'll be in this play and of course I'll be the main role. Like it was just like a normal thing, like a child thing. And then when I came to the States, I completely switched and closed off. Partially, I think, because of the language, new everything. So I became very closed off, very shy. And also I had to pursue, education and other practical things. So I couldn't really do acting. So I kind of had to like shut that down for a bit. But then I always felt like now all of a sudden I didn't have that balance of creative and everything. I just did school.
Yeah.
So when I moved to New York, I tried to go to acting classes here and there. It was hard with work.
Yeah.
So eventually it got to a point where I was like, I think this is what I want to do. So I enrolled into acting school where we met.
Exactly.
The evening conservatory. So after I did the conservatory, it made me realize, it showed to me that I enjoyed the process of it, not just the idea of it, but I actually liked going there for 4 hours every day, doing weird exercises and toning or this or that. And it just brought me so much joy that I wanted to do it. So then eventually I moved out of my corporate life and now I'm just trying to pursue this.
Yeah. But I have a question to you, like when you were finding yourself like on a journey of acting, did you have like any special moment that actually like lead you towards like, oh, this is what I want to make it, like this is what I want to do? Like, did you feel like any moment that like changed your way you're thinking?
I think it's every time I was on stage, every time I was performing and being seen, it gave me such joy and it made me feel so alive that I kind of I knew how that felt, and I knew that my work or my day-to-day wasn't it. Like that was not it.
It was not fulfilling it.
It wasn't. I didn't feel fully alive like that. So not even acting, even dancing or anything on stage, where it was a moment where you had to just collect yourself and it was go time, and you just had to deliver and perform. There's something invigorating about that moment, that everything just stops and clicks and you're just doing it, that is just, you just enjoy it. So I think every time I felt that, or every time I went and watched theater specifically, and every time something would touch me, personally from what I saw, those moments made me feel alive. And those moments made me feel like, oh, like this is why we exist. Like this specific moment when I felt something universal where like something they did on stage touched me specifically, and I know that they touch other people too. Like I guess like the shared humanity and things like that like really touch me, and that makes me feel like, okay, so this is, you know, there is a reason, there is some kind of a deeper meaning to this all, because going to work every day and doing things and this and that, you kind of feel like you're not really living a meaningful life, and there's like no point in anything. You're just kind of existing. So those moments put me out of the existing into really, really being, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned also like you went to like corporate life for a while, like so you like as I am as you are, like we are both immigrants, and like I feel in our culture it's like a lot of things like our family or the society push us into like, oh, you have to be a lawyer or you have to be a doctor. So you went to like corporate world for a while. So how did you escape from that world, like of like expectations of like, you know, parents, culture, like, you know, acting is uncertain.
It is.
So like everyone is like, why are you choosing that? Why you want to pursue? Like no one is making it. Like so what? How do you like cope with that idea? Like how did you manage that idea?
I mean, it was hard because my grandma is a doctor, my mom is a doctor, my dad has a PhD, and my sister and I only have an MBA, so we're the disappointment. Like instead of, you know, usually they're like, we're the first ones to go to college. We were like, we actually, it's downhill from here. You know, we're like, we did not do the PhD. We did not do what, you know, we did not become doctors like them. So I think my mom honestly probably wanted me to be, you know, a lawyer at least.
At least, you know, something.
You know, a doctor or something. They just want us to be comfortable and safe and, you know, secure, especially in a different country. So for a while, you know, I wanted to quit and do acting for a very long time. But of course, it's very scary because how are you going to survive in New York on that? So when I would kind of like wishful thinking, talk about it to my mom and everything, you know, she wasn't like, yes, quit everything, go. She was like, you know, you should. This is the experience you're gonna have. So that was, you know, she wasn't extremely like prohibitive about it, but you know, they had reservations, and but I don't think they had a specific thing, a forceful thing, like sometimes in our culture of like, okay, you have two options, you're either engineer or you're doctor. Like it wasn't like that, you know. I think for me, going corporate was more reality of just like practical way of staying in the country, in the US. It was more that than parental expectations. So when I came to the States, I came for undergrad, and I couldn't afford, you know, education overseas, just anywhere. So my sister came to the US first, and she was here on a tennis scholarship. So the scholarship, tennis scholarship, academic scholarship, that covered her tuition. So that's what I did also. So the choice of universities was based on which places would offer me a tennis scholarship. And also, since Ajana, my sister, did it first, my mom was very hesitant sending me. I was very young, sending me overseas by myself. So she wanted me to go where Ajana used to go.
So like to follow her,
in her footsteps, because because she says, we already know the coach. He's good. He's a nice person. It's a very safe place. It is a very safe place. There's like nobody there. Nowhere, like very safe, just bears. And then so I went there. If it was up to me, I'd go to LA or somewhere else, and I would study acting for undergrad and all of that. But instead, I went to an engineering school almost in Canada, in Upper Peninsula, Houghton, Michigan, and it was snowed all the time. And it was an engineering school. I didn't know anything about engineering, so I did the other thing that they had, which was business. So to keep my options open, I did business. I majored in accounting, minored in economics, keep my options open. So I did that. Even there, I tried to find acting. So I found an acting class there, and I was terrified, but I did it, and it was fun. But it wasn't like a degree thing that I could stay in the US with. So my goal was, because I was on a student visa, I wanted to stay in the country after I graduated. And the only way that I saw to do it was to get sponsored by one of the big corporations who had enough money and enough everything.
Sponsor programs.
The programs to sponsor people to stay, to be able to apply for visas on our behalf. So from the very beginning, the acting was
not in the picture
aside.
even.
It was pushed aside. I was like, okay, so accounting, and then I had to have my GPA up. I had to have all these things on my resume to maximize the chances of them hiring somebody.
Like you wanted to stand out. You had to.
I had to, because why would they hire somebody who they had to? If they have somebody from the States who they hire, why would they hire somebody international who they had to apply for and do all these things? The only reason would be that there is so much, it's such a standout resume that they're like, okay, we will go through. So I had to push myself to make that resume stand out. So that was my practical side is just, and then after a while, I was fortunate enough to eventually get my green card and then get my citizenship. So throughout that journey, I kind of relaxed a little bit on that practical front. And also heart wants what it wants. So I always, wanted to do acting. I would sign up for things, and eventually I did, go to a conservatory, Indian conservatory, and once I went to the evening conservatory, I was like, I really like to do this, and I really want to pursue it, but it just felt like such a impractical dream in New York that the only reason I actually did quit was because I was so unhappy at work that there was no other choice but to quit, because I just really, I wasn't in alignment. Like I didn't like it, so I quit because of that. With no plan or anything like that. So that's kind of
but I would say this is very brave, because I feel like a lot of people will not even go to this way, even because it's oh, I'm not gonna have money, oh, I'm not gonna have this. You were actually on a brave side, because I was like, whatever happens, I'm gonna find a way to make a living, right?
I don't know if it's brave or just, I don't know what it was. I think again it was just I was so unhappy there, and it's not like it's a horrendous place to work or anything. It's just that I knew for a very long time that that's not what I want to do. And I didn't feel fulfilled. Day in and day out, it was the same thing, and I would push myself, work hard, do things, but I knew that I didn't feel like I was living my life. I felt like I was existing. I was existing. I was making money. I was paying rent. I was going on trips. I was doing things. I was doing well, and it didn't really matter that much. So in my mind, I was like, what is this for? I don't, it doesn't matter. And also, again, I read, before I quit, I read so many articles about acting. When you want to do something and you're too scared, you just read about it.
Overread everything.
You just research the hell out of it. So that's what I did. And all of the articles said, if you can do anything else, do that. Don't do acting, because acting is very, unpredictable, and you don't know, and not a lot of things depend on you, and it's not an easy thing to choose to do. So I was reading that, and still I was like, but also in my mind I was thinking the worst day as an actor in my mind would still be more exciting and interesting and good than the best day in corporate.
I have the same.
If I got yelled at, and if it was a very unfair situation in a theater production, I would still be in a theater production. I would be annoyed and upset in a theater production. I would still be doing what I want to do, dealing with those problems. Versus the best day in corporate, like praise and everything's good and whatever. I'm in corporate. It's not what I want to do. I would still rather be struggling and crying and being upset doing what I want to do. So in my mind, thinking of that, I'm like, I have to do that because, but I didn't do it right away. I think it took me 8 years to quit. So it's a long time.
Yeah, but it's I think everyone is on a journey in life. We sometimes want to try this safe way, and over time it's oh, this is not safe. I actually want to pursue that, and the safety is fading towards nothing.
It's not as important. But I did try to, people did tell me, you should try to do both. And I did try to do both. I went.
Yeah, I remember, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I went, I did less at work. I tried to, not less at work, but I went into an internal role that did not require as much travel, as many things. I did try to do both, and I did try to, but I did try to do practically this and that, but it just didn't, eventually I just had to take the leap.
Yeah.
Just take the leap.
Because it's like very hard, like, I don't know, like, if a lot of people are aware, but like, we have to put so many hours into acting, like rehearsing, reading the scripts, analyzing everything, and then like, when you have full-time job as you, it's like, you have to be like two people at the same time, kind of.
It was, because, I was like, oh, I can do both, that's not how it works, because for acting, like, you have to invest, for everything, you have to invest time and money.
Exactly.
And it might be a while before something hits, and when something hits, you have to be available.
Yeah, exactly.
And working corporate, it doesn't align well with that, because I remember I would get auditions, or I would just applying for things. I would only apply for things that are available on weekends.
Yeah, because you have time there,
who does that? So like, I'm only applying, I'm like scrolling through everything. I'm like, okay, shooting on a Sunday. Okay, I can apply to this one. So I would only apply to that one. Or if I apply to things in general and I would get something, instead of feeling excitement, I would feel dread.
Yeah, like how make it work.
I would feel like now I have a problem. So instead of being like, oh my God, I got this thing, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to spin this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to figure this out? I have to take a day off work. I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to rearrange everything. It was problematic. I don't think that's a good energy to put out there, that like, it's a problem for me. Instead of, if I quit, then I'm literally excited. I'm ready. I'm here, But the reality of surviving in New York, as an actor, it's hard. I'm still struggling with it, and I still haven't figured it out. So, it is hard. It is hard, but I don't regret quitting for a second. Like, I've never regretted quitting, no matter how hard it is to survive and everything. Those things are difficult, of course, but I never thought it was a bad decision.
I think like I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but I think like choosing acting is like style of living you're choosing in a way, and I think like a lot of people are not realizing like what kind of sacrifices we actually have to make on a daily basis just to be an actor. What are like your biggest challenges that you face, like being an expat artist, like an actress in the States?
Well, I think, what I was saying about coming here and having to do practical things to stay here before thinking about the acting journey. So, if it was in an ideal world, if it was up to me, I would come to the States, I would have the documents to be able to stay here and work here. And instead of doing the entire thing in economics, accounting, finance, MBA, instead I would just go directly to an acting school.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I would be super young, and I would have my whole life ahead of me, and I would have a lot of things. So that's kind of how I think. At the same time, I do think that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like the fact that I had to go in this weird roundabout journey, and I was, a little bit older when I got to the acting part of it, might be a good thing, because I had a well-rounded life. I had experiences. I've seen people in outside of just acting, because that's probably a bubble if you're just around that all the time. So I've seen some life, I've seen things. So, and I've kind of had to be mature about a lot of things. So maybe that's a good thing, and maybe that precluded me from going down some dangerous paths. Who knows? So that's, I don't want to kind of be too negative with that either, because it's probably that's my journey. So that's how it's supposed to, that's how it was supposed to go. But I was very paranoid for a very long time about making sure that everything I do guarantees that when it comes time for my interview for a green card, and when it comes time for my interview for citizenship, that I present the most perfect picture
for the America.
So that there is no reason for them not to accept me. So I was hesitant to go into acting and all of that until I fully got my citizenship, because a part of me was worried that if I said I'm a starving artist, when they ask what do you do for a living, that's not going to be a good
picture for them.
Right, versus I'm in consulting or finance or something. So that was my difficulty of that. But now that I'm fortunate enough to be able to just pursue it without worrying about that, I guess being in a different country, I do feel like New York is home now. So I've lived here for such a long time. I've lived
how many years you lived here?
In the States, I've lived since 2007.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then in New York, I've lived since 2013. So it's been a very long time.
You're a New Yorker now.
I am definitely. I definitely feel like the States are home. New York is home. But at the same time, I know that how I'm perceived, with a slight accent and with a different ethnicity and this and that. It's like, okay, so what's your background? Like, what's your thing? So it's interesting to see, what kind of roles I could be cast in or I would be cast in. And those kinds of things right now are changing to be more inclusive and to be not, before it was like if you're an Asian, like if you cast in something, it has to be, they will, your Asianness will matter, right? Yeah. So they will cast you with that in mind. Yeah. Versus now, I think they're moving towards nothing matters, you are whatever you are, and yet you're this character, right? Yeah. So so now you have different races, different ethnicities, and there is no lines pointing that out or talking about it. So I think that's a good thing, that it's not like the main focus, because I never thought of myself as Asian back in Kyrgyzstan, because
you were there,
because everybody's
the same.
Everybody's Asian, so like we're all us. Nobody says Asian. Like we just I'm Asel, you're this, you're that. We're talking, and then in the States, it's like it was interesting because when I moved here, especially in Midwest and different places, when they don't see a lot of variety. Yeah. They would say like, you're Asian, or you're, they would say that and they would make it a thing. And then in my mind, I was like, I am. Yeah. It's a thing.
So like they were putting like in the box.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess I'm this Asian person for them, I'm this thing. And in my mind, I'm like, I guess I am. So I had to start thinking about myself in this weird way that's outside of me somehow. Because, I'm like, I'm just me, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm hoping it's moving towards
positive way. Yeah. But I have a question, like you said about the accent, like I'm a huge overthinker, or like overproducing in my brain, like the way I'm speaking, like, if someone will understand me, because I do have an accent, like I might speak well that you understand me, but I will still have this in my brain. I was like, I need to overthink every single word, how to pronounce, like to the public, or like whenever I'm doing self-tape. So how is that for you, having an accent? Like how you deal with that difficulty, like overthinking, or if you have it?
It's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing because, some actors are so good about picking up such variety of accents.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, I'm like, forget about that. I can't pick up one accent, American accent, Yeah. They're like, like this specific Southern or this. And I'm like, I can't even do one, So sometimes it's a little discouraged. I feel a little discouraged. Because I'm like... people are like, I can do British accent, I can do Australian, I can do Irish, I can do this, Scottish, I can do like variety of like American accents and this and that. So it's definitely a good skill to have in your arsenal. Yeah. But if you start thinking about all the things you can't do, there's always somebody who's brilliant at in a lot of different things, But maybe I'll learn how to do a British accent with my Eastern European tinge to it too, like exactly. Maybe that's fine too, So I don't want to stop myself from thinking that I could do certain things. Yeah. It's definitely a thing, sometimes people are like, oh my God, your English is so good, I can't even tell you have no accent. And sometimes people, as soon as I open my mouth, they're like,
where are you from?
They're like, that's a lovely accent, interesting accent, where are you from? So it's like, for commercials, if it's a couple lines, or, I do think of that sometimes when I submit, and I slow down and I practice it to make sure that all of the
You're hitting all the
I'm
points,
making are American, and if there are certain things that I tend to do, in a few lines, I can work on kind of standardizing that, and then maybe I can pass, maybe. So for commercials and things, I try to.
Yeah.
But if you have like a bigger role, I can still try, but it's not my main
goal in your brain.
It's not unless they say to me, unless the director says to me, listen, I want you in this role, but I really need you to have no accent. In that case, fine. I'll hire a coach and we'll keep working until the director's happy.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would do that if that was important. They would probably hire a native speaker if that was important.
Yeah. But I found a beauty in a way, having an accent. I was very aggressive towards myself, that I was not making accent, American accent kind of thing. And but I think now with time and being after 30, I realized we have a beauty because we have accent, but we still have another perspective that people with native American accent or native British accent won't have. We have different style of thinking. There's a beauty of it. So I think I think we cannot copy ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We have to be ourselves.
We have to be ourselves. It's interesting. One of the agencies I was working with for commercials and things, they specialize in Asian talent.
Yeah.
And I remember it was when I highlighted my hair to be blonder, and it brought up a thing about casting because my agency was worried that that might not be the look to go for as an Asian actor. Black hair, long hair, kind of a thing. And for me, I was I know where you're coming from, but if what you're thinking of is East Asian or specific Asian roles, Asian people, and yes, that makes more sense for casting who are used to that for a specific darker hair look. But I don't speak any of those languages. I speak Russian. So I wouldn't be cast in those things. And I don't look East Asian. I wouldn't be cast for those things anyways. I would be cast for something a little different. They'd be I can't put she's not necessarily from China or Korea or some kind of mix of for that. Actually, having a blonder hair is fine.
Absolutely.
It's fine. If I had pink hair or any kind of gray hair, it probably would be fine. So it's I didn't want to make decisions of how to color my hair, my appearance, just to be the most standard person, the most likely to be hired for acting, because we also have a life.
And of course, absolutely. 100%.
And I will sacrifice a lot for acting. And if I have a role, change my hair, change my appearance, do whatever. But I'm not gonna preemptively do it in hopes of something for always. If I want to go blonde, I'm going blonde. This is the time of my life when I want to be blonde.
I want to change my hair.
Sometimes it's you want to experiment. It's about living fully as who you are.
Absolutely.
And if you keep stopping it, I feel like it's gonna impact your acting too. If you just keep trying to adjust for things, you have to know who you are, and you have to be full in who you are, and then you can also act better, I feel with more fullness.
Because I think I don't know, I'm just speaking from my experience at this point, but there's a lot of people out there who trying to portray or be someone else, they will be fit, or they will change hair, or I don't know, the eyes is too extreme, but they will change a lot of things just to make it. They're losing themselves in a way.
I mean, I think sometimes it does make sense. For example, sometimes if you're in modeling and if what you're doing is not working for a long time, and if chopping off your hair and painting it grayish, purplish, catapults you into a new thing, then it's a smart move. It's a smart move, but it can be something you hate.
Exactly.
You can't do some kind of thing that is completely against what you want to do just for that, because then you have to balance it for yourself. For me personally, I like change, I like variety, so I'll do whatever. I actually am excited about roles requiring me to try a different version of myself or different this. That's part of fun of acting. That
today I can be doctor. Today I can be
you're gonna have a short hair and it's gonna be red, and it's amazing. Let's try this on. Let's try this persona, because a lot of it comes from external things. Externally, things change, and then the way you talk changes, the way this changes. A lot of it comes from that, and that's fun of acting. So that's an exciting part of it. But I don't know. You never know what they want. It's like, it's hard because as actors, we always want to be cast.
Yes, exactly.
And we always want to be, and we always want to know, like, what is it that they're looking for? Just tell me, we'll be that.
Yeah.
But they don't know what they're looking for.
Exactly.
We don't know what they're looking for. And then maybe what they're looking for is for us to be unapologetically whatever we want to be. And then that's what they'll, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And therefore, just, you got to just do whatever you want to do and have fun with it. At least that way you're just having fun with it. At least you're not miserable, while trying to get cast.
Yeah, but according to that, like, I wanted to speak about more like mental health and like how you're dealing with the rejections, because like you just said, like we have to do a lot, and like we're trying to figure out how we're gonna make it, and like how we can change ourselves in a way like that would be more like visible to like casting directors, like agents or something. And how are you dealing with the rejection here? Like you self-submitting yourself for like a lot of castings, and like for example like half a year you'll not get anything, like that. Just an example, like how you deal with like being rejected for so many months, or like just being rejected.
I did not deal well with rejection. I did not do well with rejection. So in the beginning, back in the day, I would submit everywhere, and I would be so diligent, and I would be on Actors Access backstage and casting networks and everything, submitting, doing. And then I would burn out because I would feel like nothing that I'm doing is working, and I'm not being, I'm not getting anything, or this and that. And I would just feel so discouraged that I would just stop submitting. I would have to take a break for like several months. And for several months I wouldn't do a single thing. And then I would feel the need to do something creative again. And then I would, so in the past, it would take me a few months in between to kind of recover and do that. But then that's not good either, because all of those opportunities missed just because you did not even submit. Like you did not even submit. There might have been something that was perfect for you. You did not submit. So I had, it's still a process. I'm learning to be more consistent with it. But honestly, not good. A lot of the times it's like, I feel like what helps a lot of times for me, is to have a fuller life. So it's kind of like not all eggs in one basket. So like when I worked corporate, it would overpower me because it was so important. It would take all of the hours of my day. So because it's my whole life, anything that happens at work would fully like throw me off balance. And for that, what I needed to do was to have exercise, to have social life, to have other things going on, that if something's going bad in my life, other things are still there. So it's not my entire life, it's not my entire identity. I'm like, it's okay with that because I'm still good here, So same with acting. I feel like for me, I just have to make sure that I'm traveling, I'm doing things that make me happy, I'm still, hanging out with people I want to hang out with, I'm setting time for doing things outside of acting, so that if that is not going good, I'm still a person outside of it.
Exactly.
So it kind of helps even out those things. It's like, this goes bad, this is okay. This goes bad, but this is okay, So it's like, versus if that's the only thing that you're thinking about, then you're really dependent on that ups and downs of the
But like I know, like for myself, I struggle. Like I took rejection very personally. I was like, I wanted this role so bad. Like I was auditioning for like bigger projects. I was like, I want it so bad. Like I feel like I am this person. Like I can portray that person. And then like I'm rejected. Like I'm going to like the final round of and like it's very close. And like I was like, huh? Like what happened? So how are you dealing like with this? Like if it's like becoming on a stage of like being personal and not like it's like you're getting emotional. You're getting the feelings because like you're so close to getting that, and then it was like, no, they took someone else.
That's devastating. I mean, I don't know if you can avoid feeling devastated, because if it's something that's so important to you and you feel so strongly about it, like you will get hurt and you will get upset and you will be devastated. So I don't know. I don't know if you can avoid it. I feel like
I don't think so.
I feel like maybe it's good to, knowing that those things might happen, it's good to have a good support system. and good habits and, you know, things like that, knowing how to catch yourself from spiraling out of control or, you know, going into depression or things like that. So just safeguards there, as in, like, you know, consistent exercise, so that way a little more level with your emotions, or, you know, good friends who you start laughing with, and then all of a sudden maybe that's not as big of a deal because you're just laughing about silly things and having fun. And trips, it takes you out of this space physically, and you're in different countries or different towns with different people, different perspectives. It lifts you up from that, it changes your perspective. So things that distance you from that, I think, are good. But it will be devastating.
It is,
like the role of the lifetime, and you're just almost there and you don't get it. Like that's
devastating.
Gonna hurt. Yeah.
So I want to ask you like a final question, and it is like, in this season of life, what is the most thing that you're inspired by?
Season of life. So I'm inspired by the different people I come across. Since I quit corporate, I had to do a lot of odd jobs here and there, and I also traveled a lot. So I saw a lot of different people, a lot of different perspectives, some of which, you know, I haven't been exposed before, and I'm, you know, might not agree with a lot of different people and a lot of different things. And it kind of forced me to be a little less rigid in how I think about things and how I see the world, and a little more curious, where I don't have to agree with you or approve of you, but I am curious, and it's interesting to see the full personalities and you know, all the people, and I feel like that's gonna feed into my acting, because it's in those gray areas, it's, you know, it's in those eccentricities of people, it's in those moments and things where you find the most interesting choices. And also I sort of, in this season of life, I want to let go of trying to be perfect, of trying to be this thing, or of just being more gentle with myself, being okay with, you know, messing up, being okay with being however I want to be, with being how I let be, let go, and let loose. Find who I actually am. Keep figuring out who I am, and then let me be, you know, surprised and inspired by people, and just be open to life fully. And so I'm just inspired by uncertainty.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Anyway, thank you for doing the first episode with me.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thank you, guys.